Melania Trump has spent years under an intense public microscope where nearly every appearance is analyzed, debated, and often politicized. Known for her poised demeanor, high-fashion background, and reserved public image, she has long been viewed through a lens of formality and control. That's why resurfaced bikini photos of Melania Trump have once again ignited strong reactions online, with critics labeling them too bold even for adults. But as with many viral controversies, the reality is far more layered than the headline suggests. To understand the outrage, it's important to look at context. The photos in question are not new. Most originate from her earlier modeling career, long before she entered the political spotlight. At the time, such images were part of mainstream fashion and editorial work, far from unusual in the modeling world. However, when these images are revisited years later, especially after she became First Lady, they are often judged by a completely different set of expectations. Much of the backlash stems from contrast. As First Lady, Melania Trump cultivated an image of elegance, restraint, and traditional formality. She appeared in structured outfits, muted tones, and carefully curated public settings. When bikini photos emerge alongside that image, the contrast can feel jarring to some viewers. What they interpret as outrage is often discomfort with reconciling two versions of the same person, the former model and the political figure. Media framing plays a major role in fueling the controversy. Sensational headlines use charged language like too bold or inappropriate to provoke strong emotional reactions. Once framed that way, the images are no longer seen as fashion or personal history, they become symbols in a broader cultural argument. The conversation shifts away from the photos themselves and toward what people believe a public figure should or should not be allowed to have in their past. There is also a clear double standard at play. Male public figures rarely face similar scrutiny over old modeling or lifestyle photos. For women, especially those associated with conservative or traditional roles, the expectations are far stricter. Melania Trump's bikini photos become controversial not because of their content, but because of the role she later occupied. This raises an uncomfortable question. Should someone's past be rewritten or condemned simply because their life path changes? Supporters often argue that the outrage is misplaced. They point out that Melania Trump has never hidden her background and has always acknowledged her career before politics. The photos do not contradict her intelligence, composure, or ability to fulfill public responsibilities. In fact, many see the renewed attention as an example of how women's bodies are still used as tools for judgment, regardless of context or consent. Interestingly, public reaction is far from unanimous. While some criticize, others defend her right to a past that includes confidence and self-expression. For these observers, the photos reflect autonomy rather than scandal. They argue that labeling such images as too bold even for adults says more about cultural discomfort than about the images themselves. What truly keeps this topic alive is not the photos, but what they represent in public discourse. They sit at the intersection of politics, gender expectations, and media sensationalism. Melania Trump becomes a canvas onto which broader social anxieties are projected about propriety, image control, and who gets to define respectability. In the end, the outrage surrounding Melania Trump's bikini photos is less about boldness and more about perception. The images haven't changed. The lens through which people view them has. When stripped of charged language and political undertones, they remain what they always were, part of a former model's professional past. As the noise fades, one thing becomes clear. The controversy reveals more about shifting standards in public judgment than it does about Melania Trump herself. And in that sense, the debate may be far louder and far more revealing than the photos that sparked it.